I'm Clifford Slater. I'm the president of the club. You see a bunch of other board members and invited guests up here. At some point, I probably wore most of the hats in the organization. My kids played for like 10, 12 years, times fall, winter, spring, tournament teams, etc. I coached for a lot of years and did a number of things, as did a lot of people in the club, and as do you. So thank you for being here and for raising your hand to volunteer for the kids. Whether they know it or not, they thank you, and hopefully for all of you guys, it's a labor of love, as I think it is for most of us. But we know what a big responsibility it is, and what an awesome thing it is that you volunteered. So thank you for participating, um, and volunteering and helping out this club. We've grown a lot since the club started in 1976. Over our 50 years, we've grown to be, if not the largest, certainly close to the largest youth sports organization in all of Massachusetts, and it's just boys. On our well, mostly boys in on our club. If you combine us with the girls, we're far and away, would be far and away the largest. We have maybe 100 teams a season, over 200 coaches, and lots of other volunteers. I'd say between 225 and 250 volunteers. So it takes a village to deliver, for 1,500 families in Newton, a very high quality program that I think we all can agree, it wouldn't necessarily be as robust a program as we're able to deliver with all of your help. So thank you for being a part of that. And if anybody would like to take on any other roles, we're always looking to improve the club and add volunteers and hear from other voices. And we love your feedback, and your participation, because it definitely takes a village. With that in mind, I wanted to just thank a couple people, some of whom are here, some of whom aren't, but say some names that you might have heard. We run a very robust community outreach program to help people with the fees that are charged, and overcome those, equipment, uniforms, whatever it takes. And that's run by Jody Peters. I don't think she can be here on the call tonight, but she's been instrumental in helping make sure that we were able to provide soccer opportunities. That's first grade to 12th grade. That's how we run. That can take advantage of it. Laura Woodward is our tireless treasurer, paying $18 checks to referees, up to slightly larger bills to Fezzen, and does an amazing job. I don't see Sid Chowdhury. He's our high school VP, and a coach of multiple teams through the years. You'll see on the board, most people wear multiple hats. Sean Darcy is an at-large but long-standing coach in the program, many, many years. Tireless work. Matt Cusick as well. We even have a new board member, who's brought some unbelievable energy. He's handling our IM Ref program right now. He's helping to coach our 7th grade one team. And I think he's 22. We got some new young blood, Vandry Sisson. We call him Van, the Vanster. He's a new member of the board. David Belfort, who who
Cliff, maybe I should introduce myself.
was looking a lot like an attorney, and our representative. We are a huge customer. Someone's got to, if you want to pat yourself on the back somewhere, you're welcome to, but Dave's awesome.
No, your audio's hiccuping. I was making a joke.
Oh, darn it. I hate when my audio hiccups.
Yeah.
Costas, Pavlidis is here. He's been running our travel program for a long time and coaching, along with David, championship teams, Massachusetts tournament of championship teams, and other teams as well, and been organizing grades. And Stephen Bradley, that's the Broder block you might see on your screen. He's been our secretary. He's been a treasurer. Stephen's done just about everything a man can do. So we thank all those volunteers, and then we've got the guys that do a lot of the dirty work, rolling up the sleeves and making things happen. Zach Anderson is our technical coordinator. Zach, give a wave out there. You've probably seen him on the field. There he is. And maybe you've talked to him, but he's instrumental. And then the man with the plan who brings it all together, Ed Jenkinson, who is not only our director of coaching and has been for many years, he's our registrar and also our scheduler, just does an amazing job running the club. And we're happy to say that we have him hopefully for many more years. He and his growing family, in our family, which has just been a pleasure. And hopefully that's a relationship that continues for a long time. And some other folks you probably have heard of, Giannis. I'm not going to say his last name. Giannis, we'll just call him Giannis, does all the IM reffing coordination. And I'm sure I've left some people out, but I don't want to take all night with introductions because we want to get into the soccer meat of the program. But I did just want to thank the board members, thank you guys. And again, if anybody would like to join the board, help us with some of the projects we have, we would love that. Just reach out. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Jenkinson. Ed, to you.
All right, thanks, Cliff. And thank you everyone for joining. Can everyone see the meeting here? I've got to make it full screen, right? Here we go. All right, cool. So thank you for taking the time. We'll try and keep this to an hour or less. While I was editing our meeting this afternoon or yesterday, and I realized it was getting bit out of control in length. So what I have done here is included tonight a lot of the information that you kind of need to get things going, and then anything that you feel like we skip over or we miss, then just reach out. I mean, I will say it a few times during this meeting that Zach and I are very available for any questions. There's no question too silly or small, or whatever you need help with, please come to us. So if we don't cover anything tonight, please reach out via email, via text, via phone, whatever, and we will get the answer to you. But here's the agenda for the evening. The way we run this is it's webinar, so you won't be able to be on video or talk, but if you have a question, there's a Q&A function that I'm hoping somebody on the panel here will monitor, and we'll either answer it as we go, or they'll stop me talking and answer it in real time if I have the answer. And if I don't, I will make it to my mission to get it to you. So I like to include the mission here. We'll send this out so you have this, but this is on our website, and something we sort of guides everything that we do. It's a big club, lots of players at all different levels and sort of ambitions, but this is the areas that we really focus on as we go through this. And I wanted to start tonight with some soccer stuff and then move on, because I think this kind of slide here, which I colored in this year to make it a bit more poppy. This slide, if nothing else from the meeting here, as you go through the season, if you keep coming back to this slide and thinking about if you hit these kind of these 4 points, then you're doing a great job in the program, and we'll be very happy. Without laboring each point and going through them step by step, the core of our club is a development focused club. We want to be competitive. We want our teams to win and develop that winning mentality. But the key and the sort of ground level program aim is for players to come into our team at whatever level they're at and when they leave, they are a stronger, better, more confident player. And that comes through the coaching, but it also comes through the playing and how we set up and the leagues we play in and the programs we provide. So, if you can always find the positives in what you're doing, if you're coaching the top team in your age bracket or one of the lower level teams, thinking about success is not just on winning games, it's also a kid improving who couldn't use his left foot and now can, or hadn't scored a goal all season and scores one, or something else that involves your team that doesn't involve winning. So we are a development club. We afford all our players an opportunity to play every game they attend. Typically that means half a game. So every time they come out and play, they'll play half a game. Some kids might play more. You might have times where you have few subs. You might have a big roster, so it's difficult to get everyone to play half a game, but you do the best you can to hit that target because we want our players to come to our club and know they're going to get an opportunity to play. Everyone gets to see lots of different positions. Certainly the younger grades, we want to develop whole players. And if you're a third grade coach, you don't have strikers and right backs and midfielders. You have players who will go through a season and see all those different positions and goalkeeper because they don't know what they are. They might think they know what they are, but having someone a player to come in, experience all the different positions and figure out what they like and what's tough and what's difficult is kind of a real core philosophy of ours. We are a positive coaching group. You'll never hopefully see a new soccer coach screaming and shouting and hollering on the sidelines and telling kids where to be and what to do at all times and having being the puppet master for his puppets out on the field. We want to create a culture of supportive culture where they learn and they grow and they feel valued in a team. And we really feel like a positive coaching philosophy helps players be the best they can be. And it's a lot more fun to go out and play with a fun, positive coach than it is with someone who picks on the negatives and is screaming shouty. So definitely something that keep in mind as you go through this experience. And the last one I always like to put on is it's a community program. 95% of actually 100% of our players either live in Newton or go to school in Newton. There might be the odd player here and there who that doesn't apply to. And every time you visit other communities, you're being kind of judged, right, on who we are. So thinking about leaving fields in a good condition, better than when you arrived, is important. You're away at Wayland, and make sure you pick up water bottles before you leave and any trash. And all our players are wearing the uniform with pride. You're wearing your coach uniform, so you look the business. I think is really another key element of what we want to have in our travel program and our intramural program. So rattle through them. Zach and Costas, anything else to add, please do. But I think, as you go through, whether you're new or returning, if you go through this season and the travel program as a whole, and you can keep these 4 sort of points in mind, you can't go wrong. Okay, that's kind of all the bulk of the soccer stuff. I'm gonna just quickly get some event stuff through the presentation. So Nick is going to take over from here to quickly talk about the Revs night, and then we'll get into
I'll go for it. Thanks, Ed. And yeah, as the season's winding down, don't have too much for you guys now. Obviously, as you can see on the slide, we got our Newton night coming up on October 18th. And then the only other key date on our side that certain coaches might want to jot down is on September 13th for ages like 8 to 12 year players. We have the opportunity to have those teams play on the field. So if you want to have, and we take signups really from any skill level. So whether you're a in-town or a high level travel team, most of the time we're able to find you a really equally skilled opponent. We have teams from all over Mass and Rhode Island and New Hampshire play. So if you're interested in that, feel free to email me or email Steven and we'll get connected and we can take care of you on the side. If you're interested in coming out to the Newton Community Night, I'll have more details on that, like the link that you can use for if you want to send it individually for families or if you want to just grab your team seats together, can do so through me as well. But more info on that to come. Yeah. Again, like Ed was saying, for the community stuff, it's our games are super family friendly if you've never been before. It's something that we stress, and you know, whether you're the best player in the world or you're somebody who thinks that you're going to be playing on our field in 10 years or something like that, you'll get something out of coming to our games. So hope to see you there.
And I think
What,
you talked about the on-field stuff there, Nick. So I think the last update email I sent to all the coaches included your little blurb you sent around. So it's not on this presentation, but everyone has received that. So
Ed, I just wanted to jump in and say that this date's going to come before we know it. So it's not a bad idea to just throw it into your team snap for your team now. So it's in front of everyone and everyone kind of knows this date.
cool.
And
and
I
the
will
18th.
add too, if like if you order offline through me, there's no processing fees at all. I know in the past, like I've had like a $10 processing fee. This year, like we've completely wiped it. Where if you buy through the link, there is processing fees for a family. So if you like, even if you and a couple families just want to grab seats together, I definitely recommend reaching out because you'll save each other like $20. If it's a family of four on average. So
So, Nick, you said the 18th is the date.
yeah,
So this is a error. It says the 8th here.
yeah, little error, but yeah,
Okay.
Saturday, October 18th.
All right, good. Just so everybody knows.
What an error. I'm going to fix that right now.
Oh my word, the pressure.
Look at
Wow.
Well, again, it's my fault. That's what happens when I don't have my stuff set up yet. So I'll take the blame.
All right, cool. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, so Costas.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thanks. So just wanted to talk about a Newton Youth Soccer sponsored trip to the UK. So we ran this in partnership with Go Play last year. They organized a trip. They took a bunch of Newton families to England over the February break. And those families got to go to pro games. They got to do the kids got to do some training sessions with some Premier League Academy coaches over there. They got some stadium tours, very, very soccer focused, obviously, tour of London and England. I think about 25 people, maybe 6 or 7 families in total went. The feedback was really good and strong enough that we decided to do it again next year. So we're gonna run the same event at the same time over February vacation. So our friends at GoPlay already did one information webinar for this. We'll set up another one pretty soon, so look out for emails for this. But for all of the coaches, this is something we're really proud as a club to be able to offer because traditionally it's only been the club soccer clubs, the paid clubs that can do stuff like this. We're proud to be able to offer this to our players. And so it's a good thing for you to mention to families. And then the reason we really wanted to tell you about it is because it's also an opportunity, if you're so inclined, to organize a trip for your entire team. What we would love to be able to do on this tour is set up some real games, friendly games, but competitive friendly games while the kids are in England. It's hard to do that if we've got a bunch of kids from a bunch of different teams at a bunch of different levels, but if we can get good representation, like if we, let's say, got 2 or 3 fifth grade teams who were relatively close together in skill level, and we had enough players from those teams all traveling together, we could set up some scrimmages for them over there against some fun clubs. So I wanted to put it out there. If you guys are interested in doing that for your team, talk to me and Ed about it, and we'll connect you with GoPlay and kind of give you whatever support we can on our end to try to make it happen. And again, reach out to myself or Ed if this is something you're interested in. But we will set up another webinar, at least one, if not 2, with GoPlay. So look out for those information sessions.
If there are any AGCs in attendance, I know there's a couple on the board, but it can be kind of a fun thing if you guys know your grades pretty well. If you spearheaded something with the grade, like you had a little bit of momentum, maybe you're also a coach, and you had some players on your team, but because you've been placing these kids, the families, and you wanted to try and spearhead a seventh grade team or a sixth grade team. It doesn't have to be, all from one team. That can be a really fun way, to do something. Or I was a Mason Rice dad, and we sometimes for tournaments we would throw together a Mason Rice team, even though the kids were scattered, all over the place. So, that could be another way if there's momentum, and it's not it's listen, there's an expense to it. It's got to take a lot to bring kids together. But, just in other ways to rally, and feedback's been awesome, and the more the merrier.
Thanks, Cliff.
Cliff, do you want to touch on this briefly?
Sure, yeah. And by the way, just along those lines, just so you guys know, there's nothing. This is the trip program is not first of all, we're a nonprofit, not for profit, but there's no commission to us. There's no fees. We're not making, $50 a player or whatever to join. It's just got great feedback. Other towns do it, have had some success with it. And so we know it would be a blast, and if people want to bring it together. And, along those lines, part of what you guys do by being volunteer coaches helps keep our program affordable for all the Newton families, but also, a little bit of everyone's fees go to help our scholarship program, which is part of the outreach. And I think over the past few years, when I was doing it, we would have, 10 kids a year or whatever. If anybody asked us, we would certainly provide scholarships. We've been able to grow that to provide opportunities, I think, for upwards of about 100 kids a year, who otherwise wouldn't be playing soccer. Sometimes the choices from the parents are groceries or these kinds of activities. So we are definitely happy to be able to provide scholarships for them, and it includes equipment, it includes jerseys. Jody Peters runs it. There's her email. The email is scholarships@newton.org. If you know anybody anybody comes to you and asks you about it, it's talked about on our website, and we're all about helping more Newtonites enjoy this beautiful game and get to participate in it. Anybody have any other comments on that?
Well, just one comment, and it's written in here, but there are plenty of players who come through this program who might need extra support and assistance just with communication. So if you have a player on your team who you've not heard from, let us know, and we might be able to either help you get connected or something else. So yeah, that was what I had to say. Okay. So cracking on, let's get through some of the sort of more mundane aspects of being a volunteer coach in our program. So I've been harping on this for a long time now, as you are no doubt aware via email, about credentials and rosters, or credentials initially. So this has been the standard for a few years now, but every person who volunteering is not is not enough anymore. You have to also go through a certain amount of background checks and registrations, and also some trainings that do take some time. So, getting on this early has been kind of my aim this year. And it's a kind of a 3-step program. Mass Youth Soccer annual registration, which is sneakily the one that a lot of people will miss, because this number one is you register with Mass Youth Soccer, which triggers a background check in your Corey. But if your Corey is still valid, it won't run another one. So you might feel like, oh, I did this last year, I don't need to do it again. But this one has to be done every year. It's a form online. You click a link, it's a form, takes 3 minutes, and it will just confirm some details and run the background check if it needs to. And if it doesn't, it'll just approve you straight away. The required trainings, number 2, there are 2 parts to it. So one is safe sport and one is concussion training. And these are both now housed in what they call the US Soccer Learning Center. And it's stage 1 or step 1 or phase 1. And it's within that element. Safe sport, the initial training can take 90 minutes, but then there are refreshers every year, 30 and 30. And then you start again after 3 years. And then there's a concussion training, which is not called concussion training. It's within a program called Introduction to Safe and Healthy Learning Environment. So it's all housed in the US Soccer Learning Center. So long as those two things that you signed up with your same legal name and email, they'll sync, and then that'll give me the ability to fire off a credential for you to be on the sideline. The last part, number 3 here, which has been really pushed this year by Mass Youth Soccer, is to get that Corey verified, which involves you providing your Corey receipt, should you have to run one this year, um, a copy of a picture ID, a valid picture ID, and then I check them both either via Zoom or in person, and then I just tick a box and you're verified, and that is a one-time deal. So there's 3 kind of stages. If you've never done this before, it can take some time. If you are a repeat coach, these can usually be knocked out pretty quickly. But essentially, if they don't all get a green tick, I can't give you a credential, and if you don't get a credential, you can't be on the sidelines. So it's really kind of, especially if you're the only coach for a team, it's really kind of crucial we have this done, because referees, and we'll talk about referees later, there's no kind of wiggle room here. They need to make sure that whoever's on the coaching sideline is cleared, safe, and good for the kids. So doing this is kind of number 1 priority before all the soccer stuff. I'll supply rosters next week. I've been working on them, and you'll get basically an email with the roster, your roster that would have been approved by Bays, and your credential if I can produce it. We're about 60% of the way there, so we're slowly creeping up, and people are getting it done, and I appreciate it. And it does take some time. It looks like this, and I'll send one to you. You can print it out, and we will provide you a plastic sleeve to put it in a lanyard so you can wear it around your neck on the sideline so it's visible. And kind of here are the rules from Bays, the league we play in, about credentials. And they used to be a bit loosey-goosey, and you might get a referee who is feeling charitable, but really they shouldn't. And if they tell you, hey, you can't be on the sideline without your credential, there's no argument there. It's all right, I'll go and stand on the parent side, and if we don't have a coach on the sideline, that's when we get into trouble. So if you don't know where you're stuck, or you don't know why you're not cleared, or you think you've done everything and want to check, email me. I can check it real quick and let you know what's yet to be done. Don't pay for anything. So if anything asks you to pay money, then you're going wrong somewhere. Don't pay for anything. It's all free. It's all part of the state association's sort of provisions to you. So if you say, "Oh, this cost me X amount of dollars," don't do it, because there's nothing here that is paid. Equipment, real quick. Carl is not with us today, but Carl Bentop is our equipment coordinator. I know he sent out a few notes about requesting bits and pieces if you need some new stuff. I don't know why that says 10 to 12 a.m. That means p.m. So we're doing 2 events. One will be the Friday before the first game, and one will be the Saturday morning of the first game, where you can come by his place, pick up anything you ordered. If you are a new coach and you need if you're a new coach and you need a coaching bag, you can get that before that weekend, those events. If you're practicing during that week, you just have to reach out to him. But if you are a new coach, you don't have any swag, you don't have any apparel, we want to get you kitted out as well in a shirt or a polo or a couple of bits and pieces that we want to give you. So if you're a new coach, definitely come by one of these events and we'll get you some gear. If you order stuff, you need some new balls, gloves, come by. But those are the 2 events: the evening of the 5th and the morning of the 6th, before kind of we get kicked off Saturday afternoon for the first set of games. Everyone gets new balls, a couple of game balls. Everyone will get ice packs. If you want to land it in a sleeve for your coaching credential, do that. And if you ordered anything, come get it. And then if you need stuff before that, so the week of practice next week, just reach out to Carl and he'll say, "Hey, come by, grab it from my porch," and he'll make sure you get what you need. Zach, anything else on that? I think I need to delete this thing about online, because I don't think there was an online order this year. But just come by, come say hi, I'll be there. And if you want to do Corey verification, you can do that with me there too.
And I knew I would forget someone. I said at the beginning of the intros, I did want to shout out to Carl, who has been a board member, is now just sort of tirelessly doing and quietly doing the equipment, which is a really big role. And so I want to make sure, shout out to him for doing all that he does to make sure that soccer balls, gloves, etc., get where they need to go. So we appreciate his volunteering as well.
Sure. If you're a returning coach, you'll probably know this, but here's kind of how our uniform for our players sort of shakes out. Everybody really at this point should know what their jersey number is, and they should have ordered. I'm hoping everyone has ordered their uniforms at this point. The later you leave it, the harder it is, although we have a pretty good vendor who does his best to get the gear out. But practices, and we want players to wear this and try and push this with your players to have everyone look the part. And I'm a big believer if they'll feel good in what they're wearing, they'll feel good playing as well. But your practice uniform is the black jersey, black shorts, black socks, and then the only change for games is you'll wear orange for the jersey. And as a good habit, I'd have them bring both jerseys to every game you play. One of my biggest bugbears, and I moan at this to Zach all the time, is when you play another team in orange, and you are wearing orange, and then one team has to put on the stinky, horrible pinnies you've got in your bag, and you look like ragtag rovers. So it's much nicer just to slip on that black jersey, and you still look the business. So get into the habit of having kids bring both all the time, and it's a real easy fix if you run into a team that also plays in orange. Although there are more than you'd think.
Well, and sometimes, Brookline wears red. That can look a lot like orange. So it happens more often than you think. And then every once in a while, a team just wants to wear black. Just look good in black.
Yeah,
But you got to have the uniform.
you got to have it. So the link down there is for anyone who needs to order. If a player does not have their jersey number, your age group coordinator or I'll shoot that over to you. No problem.
Ed, we have a couple questions. One, I'll deal with the easy one first. It's from Justin, who asks if we should default to orange for all matches and not just for home matches. So we typically wear orange, like Ed said, unless there's a clash. If the other team's in red or the other team's in orange, that's when we'll bring out the black. If we're playing away, but there's no clash of uniform, typically we'll wear orange. That said, like Cliff just said, if the whole team is on board with the idea that you want to wear black one day, there's definitely no rule against it. You can do that too. The other question, Ed, I'm going to have to default to you on is there a way to get equipment earlier for teams that are trying to practice early next week? I assume, they might need cones and things like that.
So just shoot an email to Carl. You can copy me as well, and because he has a full-time job, but I can nudge him as well. But yeah, we should have gear in by early next week. The permit starts on Monday, so if people want to practice next week and they don't have anything, we'll do our best to get you something to get you started. If you're a new coach, you'll get an equipment bag for the season. So the aim is to have everyone kind of good to go next week. But just email Carl would be my suggestion. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Dave. Dave Belfort is our Bays representative, and there's a lot of Bays stuff we've got to talk about. So
I'll make it snappy like the intros. The first thing I want to say is thank you, Zach and Ed, for being our professionals. We are very fortunate to have both of you, and this club runs extremely well because of you two. So thank you for everything you do. And for anybody who's considering joining the board and helping us organize, it's a lot of fun. There's some great people who do it. You don't have to know a huge amount about soccer if that's your concern. If you do know a lot about soccer, that's great. But there's, ministerial, administrative things to do and initiatives. And so come check us out, and we'd love to have you. So, as one of my roles, I coach with Costas, and I've coached all three of my children all the way through high school. So my current role as Bays liaison, which is our league, is to sort of update the club on the newest rules. And last year they implemented this pregame sportsmanship statement, and now they require the pregame handshake. So you warm up and then you line up and you shake hands prior to the game rather than after the game. I don't think there's anything that prohibits post-game handshakes. I've seen our games often that are friendly and end well do them. Other times there are informal player-to-player handshakes after the game, but the current sort of rule is that you line up in front of the parents and the home team reads the new statement, which we'll show you in a moment. And then the teams shake hands and you start the game. Next slide, please. Here's the statement, and it's been revised this year. So for those of you who have last year's card, you need to print a new one. I don't need to read it to you, but part of this is encouraging these kids to focus on the sportsmanship element of the game. At the end of the game, oftentimes there's, especially in the later age groups, there's some testosterone flowing and people are angry at each other. And that's why they kind of moved this handshake to the beginning of the game when everybody's calm. And that allows folks to opt out at the end so that there's less confrontation, less argument, less funny business in that line. I can't tell you how many times Costas and I have had to tell our own boys to calm down. So in any event, this is what you have to read. And hopefully this will continue to promote good sportsmanship. And Newton, we're kind of known for being pretty good sports people, not only in terms of our performance, but in terms of the delivery of sort of kindness to the other team. And I think that is borne out in the data, especially from last year. Next slide, please. And this new abuse prevention policy, it's called RAP. It replaced our zero tolerance policy, which for those of you who have been coaching a couple of years know. And it's basically you can't communicate at all with the referee. And that continues in a sort of much more rigorous format with fairly serious punitive measures. And I'll go through those in a second. But the goal here is to protect the referees. And it no longer just applies to the players or the coaches. It applies to everyone. It applies to the folks who attend the games, the parents, and everyone else. And so the goal is to protect the referees, most of whom are young players. My kids are refs, and I know a lot of the folks on the board have children that are refs. And the goal is to protect them because otherwise they quit. And there's a shortage of refs, and we want our children to be able to do this safely without feeling attacked. The number one reason these kids quit is because they have an adult attack them or weigh in on them or tell them their call is lousy. And so that's what these rules are intended to sort of protect against. I think I've covered everything here. There is a multiplier now, which means that if the minor is a ref, if the ref is a minor, the consequences are multiplied by 3. And you'll see in the chart that's coming up that they're pretty significant. There it is. They're pretty significant punitive measures. If you are found to have insulted, belittled, that's 2-game minimum. If you get up to non-physical offenses in the red zone, they call it, aggression, attacking, derogatory, or God forbid, discriminatory, they both can suspend you for games and in addition to a time period. And so if there's a multiplier attached to this because it's a minor ref, when you're sitting out for a very long period of time. So I'm very pleased to say that there were no RAP violations for Newton last year. None. And before that, when there was a zero tolerance policy, there were some. I think there was a dozen the year before. And so that's one of two things. Either these more serious punitive measures are having an impact and scaring us all into submission, or perhaps the referees are a little bit more reticent to levy sort of these serious consequences. But the effect is that it seems to have worked. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the general data, but they do publish anybody who's found to have a RAP violation. There's a website, and the violator is listed, and there's a mechanism for appeal. It's arduous and takes a lot of time, and so the most important thing is that we really do not, as coaches, speak to the referees, and we tell our parents and our players to the same. Now, there's some exceptions, and they're important exceptions. When you're permitted to speak to the referee, if the referee speaks to you or initiates the conversation, you can speak to a referee. If there's an emergency on the field, some sort of health emergency, somebody goes down, you can alert the referee to the injury, and that is to be distinguished from, and it doesn't count if a referee is not calling aggressive fouls. That is not grounds for speaking to the referee. If there is something of a heightened level, like an incident of misconduct that includes discrimination or abusive language or behavior, the coach is told under these new rules to alert the referee by simply saying referee misconduct report and telling the referee they want to report misconduct. Then let the referee take it from there. If they don't come to you, you don't raise it again until you file your report after the game. Substitutions, you're permitted to communicate to the ref about, and you're permitted to ask for the time remaining in the half. And I went to the RAP rules and reread them, and I actually learned you can also ask the referee about a restart at a throw-in direction or whether it's a direct or indirect free kick. That's it. Those last two, I recommend you don't do. Let your kids figure it out. They know how to do it anyway. For the most part, but don't dispute calls. And the days of yelling at refs and criticism and sarcasm and, God forbid, harassment are behind us. Hopefully, let's see if we can hit another 0 RAP violations this coming year. Just so you know, these RAP violations, if you do get a sanction like you see on the screen now, it'll apply to both your club, your private club, and your town team. So if that's a 2-game suspension, you miss both 2 games in your town and 2 games in your club. They're not. You can't take a couple games out of town and keep playing club. Not allowed. And these rules apply to clubs, by the way. They apply to their U.S. soccer rules. So feel free to go online and read all the details. If a spectator or a coach is found to have violated the rules, but they can't identify which coach did it, the head coach gets the violation. So I've decided I'm going to try to violate these rules so that Costas gets sanctioned this coming season. This is a joke on Costas. No, seriously, it's important that we keep our mouths shut. But spectators, if we can't identify who it is, the next game, the spectators are going to be asked to be 100 feet away, and they can't watch the game. So that's if they can't identify who it is. If somebody steps up, I suspect they will take the RAP. Next slide.
I think that's you, Dave. I will say just on referees generally, you'll find as you go through the program, especially if you are a younger age group, 3rd, 4th grade, your refs may be inexperienced, they may be learning the game, they may not be very good sometimes. It's just the nature of the business we're in. So this is obviously to protect them and make them want to continue to do it and get better and improve. But also, there is a function to provide feedback about the referees you get. It is through bays. We do have a great referee assigner in NYS who receives the feedback that you submit through bays, good or bad, and he can act upon it. So if you do have a referee who you don't think had control of the game or missed a lot of obvious calls or didn't know the rules very well, don't get angry about it and fester it over it. Feed that back and have an opportunity for those referees to be trained and educated and helped so they can continue to do it. The referee shortage is real, right? There are not enough refs. We have a pretty good program in Newton where we have a lot of refs. We want to continue that and nurture those young referees to be adult referees so we can be part of the solution. And I think RAP helps that, keeping those kids in the game and keep doing it.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Ed. And I forgot to mention that the mechanism for reporting um, it, problems with referees is through the ref feedback form. And there's a question in the Q&A about what happens if the other coach is violating the rules or the ref is having a hard time handling an opposing coach. Um, you can report also that through the Bay's portal. You can also, because there's no prohibition to you talking to the other ref, you can tell I mean, not to the other ref, to the other coach. So if the other coach is behaving poorly, you can remind them there are rules. You can say, hey, look, just so you know, you're going to get tagged for a suspension if you don't watch yourself. And that usually calms things down.
Not
Or,
in my experience.
all right, well, it at least reminds them that they're going to be sanctioned.
But
Um,
the rules are and the fines are much stiffer. And by the way, Dave mentioned club. If you guys, we know our volunteers raise their hand a lot. The 80-20 rule or 20-80 rule. If you coach the girls, a team, and you're suspended, that suspension would apply there as well. So don't do it over there because it'll affect over here and vice versa. And just one last note I would like to chime in with, which is just a reminder that as adults, our voices have a very strong impact on, anyone college age, 25 years old, let alone 18, 17, 16, whatever their ages are, kids. And they're going to take things that come out of our mouths much more meaningfully. And that's why the violations, there's the multiplier, but also, just a word to the wise, and you guys probably all already know this, but, our words are powerful. So, just be extra mindful.
Hey,
Thanks.
Cliff.
Yeah.
So, a quick suggestion about the pre-game sportsmanship statement, and that is you could take a screenshot on your phone and save it to your favorites, or better yet, you could print it out and put it in the back of your lanyard, so you always have it with your credential and your lanyard right there. Because quite often you have to run over, and one of the kids wants to give the talk, and it's nice to have it and hand it over to them, and they can read it right there.
Fantastic. Good
Love it.
advice from the soccer gods. Did that voice just come from above?
Sorry, thank you. Still at work. Still at work. Thank you.
All right. So, I mean, obviously, it's easy for us as a club to provide this detail to our coaches, and you can impart this on your players. What we have a little less control over, just by its nature, is the people who are there to watch. So, Costas, are you going to talk about this, Costas, or was I going to crack on with spectators? But I think what we need
I
your
think this
help
was you.
with, yeah, is helping out with the families who come to watch, the spectators on the sideline, and the couple of the do's and the don'ts about, what the expectation is on them, and what they are permitted to do when they're at a game and what they are not. I mean, it's the players' game, it's your team to coach, and they are there essentially to watch, applaud, and cheer, and be happy and excited, and that's the end of it. And I've in my time with Newton, I've seen all sorts of weird behavior, and people say things that they would never say in a normal setting, but as soon as they're at a game watching their kids play, it all of a sudden feels like it's okay. So what we're asking for you to help with is this slide. It's look, here's what you're allowed to do. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. And it's a non-negotiable. It's not, oh, I'm trying to help. Or this referee's terrible. This is what the environment should be. And if the parents on the sideline are in good form and happy and cheerful, that it rubs off on the players as well. So
Yeah, you see it anyone who's been coaching a few years will know what I'm talking about. And for the newer coaches, you'll see it. You'll go to some towns where there just isn't a good sideline culture, and there's a lot of yelling and screaming, and you see it immediately translate to the field. The players make, more violent tackles. The game gets out of hand more. It disrupts everybody's just vibe on the day. As a parent of kids, you often wonder if they ever listen to anything you say, and then you get in that environment, you realize they actually listen to everything that's said, peripherally, straight directly to them, all over the place. So we want to do what we can here. Like Ed said, as a coach, you're on the other sideline. You have limited control over this. So this is probably one of the things I would say is like a must do a preseason meeting, team meeting with your team and your parents, and this slide should probably be a big part of the focus around that. If you've been coaching the same team for a couple of years, parents know kind of what to expect. There's no harm in reiterating it. But for if you've got a bunch of new parents, or if you're just kind of starting out coaching, that's probably the most important part of your team meeting.
I'll come back to
Yeah.
that.
Ed, is that agenda available for people to duplicate, to copy?
Yeah, we can. It's on the website, right, Zach? The website we haven't updated yet. It will be. I will make sure that is available. But I don't want to skip ahead there because there's more you can include. But yes, we will send out a template, an example of a team meeting. But this is a great point to hit on during that before the season starts. All right, couple ones for you, more for you, Costas.
Yeah, so I'll do this really quickly. Most of you probably know this already, but for new coaches, there is a rule in Bays that you cannot win by a scoreline of more than 5, a score differential of more than 5 goals. As the kids get bigger and the games tend to get more competitive, there's bigger players to get through to score. This can become less of an issue. From my memory, it was at its toughest in 3rd and 4th grade. But it still happens all the way through 8th, where for whatever reason the teams are just mismatched, and you start the game and it's a relatively easy game, and the chances that your team is going to score more than or win by more than 5 goals are pretty high. So Base doesn't want us to do that, and they've instituted penalties for it. And what that means is that now if you win by 9 goals or more, you actually get 0 points for your win. And if you win by 10 or more, they actually take a point away from you. And you can see it here. You win by 8 goals, you only get 1 point for the win. If you win by 7, you get 2. If you win by 6, they'll still give you your 3 points, but you get a stern letter from the league, and you have to explain why you fell outside of the rules around it. So these are real penalties. This is a real issue. Base takes it really, really seriously. And so a couple of tips on this for people who haven't had to deal with it before. The biggest one is have a plan for what you're going to do in this situation before the situation comes up, because games are frantic. They're crazy, and you're trying to manage substitutions and 15 other things. So trying to manage this on top of it, or come up with a plan for this on top of it, is really, really tough. The other thing is, don't wait too long. If you get up by 4 goals and decide you're going to try to keep it to 5, it can get really, really hard to do it. If you feel like the game is headed that way and your team is up by 2 or 3 goals, that's really when you want to start thinking about implementing some changes. So some of the things I've done with Dave include, making your players shoot from outside the box, making them complete a certain number of passes before they're allowed to take a shot. When when it's getting really, really close, make them shoot with their weak foot from outside the box. That usually kills most scoring opportunities.
I don't think I've ever seen a goal with the weak foot outside the box, Costas.
No, hopefully this year will be the year. And then, the last tip on this is, the whole intent behind this is not to humiliate the other team. One of the challenges can be that you implement a plan not to score goals, and the only way to implement it is to yell it across the field, and all the kids start yelling it to each other. We can't score any more goals. We're not allowed to score anymore. Coach is going to take us out if we score. That's just as insulting, probably more insulting to the other team. So try to do it a little bit more subtly. Either, if at halftime you're up by 3-0, you can kind of implement it at halftime. I've put a color code in with our team, which 5 years or 6 years later, I think they all finally have started to understand. You have to reiterate it a few times, but we basically call out the color orange if they're only allowed to shoot outside the box, and we call out the color red if they're only allowed to shoot outside the box with their weak foot. They spread that around really quickly. Everyone knows what it means. The other team kind of sees that something's going on, but it's not quite obvious. You don't have to copy that system, come up with your own, but that's it. Act early, have a plan before you go in, and try to do it as subtly as you can.
There's a list of other things you can try. I mean, sometimes you can take a player off. You can play short-sighted. You can change your structure and put 5 defenders, 4 midfield. There are a lot of things you can do. You can prohibit going into the offensive end for all but 2 players. There are a lot of things you can do.
Yeah, Base has a whole PowerPoint of things that you can do. The ones I mentioned are the ones that I think work best for us. Before Ed says it, I'll say it. We generally recommend not taking players out because that kind of disrupts the whole game. It's certainly something you can do if you have to, but I would try all of those other things before you take players out.
I just don't like that you kind of penalizing your players for scoring goals and that.
Yeah.
They
it's already
can,
hard to get them playing time.
the other team can put another player on would be my counter to that. So we do have our own document here we can share. What happens when this, and it's going to happen anyway. You can try everything and it might still happen because kids want to score goals and they're young. We get an email from Bay saying, "Hey, this happened. What's up?" And we just have to make sure that you've tried, right? Like make an effort to curb scoring, implement some ideas. So if it does happen, you're in a game, you win by 7, and you're like, well, I know that's too many. Before I get the report, it'd be nice if you could just say, hey, this is what happened. I tried this. They're probably in the wrong, they might be in the wrong division. They might not be in that division for much longer. But I think the attempt to try your best, the attempt to curb scoring is what we're looking for here from our coaches in these scenarios, because you can do everything and then they'll score an own goal or something will happen where it's out of your control. So it's important that we try, and if it still happens, we can manage that.
So
You want this one as well, Cost? This is my new favorite rule.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to read this word for word off the slide,
Yeah.
but Bayes implemented a new rule last year that you could have a guest player. So if you're short on your roster, if you're trying to play over Columbus Day weekend, for example, and you're down to having 0 subs for the game or something, or 1 or 2 subs, you can bring in guest players to play. Really, the only rule around this is that the guest players can't play down. So you can't, if you're on the second team, you can't bring in guest players from the first team. If you're coaching a 6th grade team, you can't bring in 7th grade players to play on that team. The guest players you bring in have to be at the same level or playing up. So if again, your 6th grade second team and the third team also happens to be in your division, you can use their players. Or if the third team is in a lower division, you can use their players also. If there are like good 5th grade players who you think can handle it and you want to bring them to play on your 6th grade team, you can also do that. I think generally coaches have some idea of adjacent players, either in age or teams, but if you don't and you're short staffed and you're trying to avoid changing the date or rescheduling a game and you need guest players, come reach out to your age group coordinator or reach out to Ed, and we can help identify coaches that might be able to help supply guest players for your team. If you do guest players, you need to have obviously your own roster for the game. You also need to have the roster of the team that guest player came from. So you'll need to have that ready for the ref so he can check the players in before the game. But apart from that, even though there's a lot of words on this slide and I just used a lot of words, it's not that complicated. And it is really great. It helped us. It probably helped us avoid rescheduling at least 3 games last season.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It really is helpful, and I look at the weekly game reports and there are more games with guest players than there are not usually in a typical week. So it happens, and everyone is using them, and I think it's a great thing. And this fall, what I tried to do with the game times for, because I know one of the issues was it's very difficult to get a player because they're playing at the same time or they're away. Is I've tried to adjust it so you should be able to pull from a different team who play at a different time. So if you're both at home, you won't be home. If you know what I mean. So we try to figure out so players are more available to play 2 games in a day if you need help. I can provide the rosters. You just have to make sure the player's good to go, and link me in whenever you do it, and we'll make it happen.
Great. Rob asked how do we make sure that a player isn't from a team a level above their team. And basically they need to be playing in a division in Bays that's below the division that your team is playing in. You can check that out on the Bays website. If you're talking to a coach about grabbing one of their players or talking to a player about them playing for your team, just kind of ask them what team they're on. You can check the Bays website for that. And then again, I'll say this 1,000 times tonight. You can just check with me or with Ed or with Zach.
Yeah, and if you don't know any coaches, we can make the connection there too. All right, so just some dates and schedules. I'm sure everyone is aware now. The Bays game schedule is live. I've checked for any weekly conflicts, double bookings, and it looks good to me. But just make sure you know where you are. Nothing should change, I don't think, at this point. I know some games would have changed from the initial release, but that link will take you to basically our home on the Bays website, and you can find your team, click it, and it will show you all your games home and away. The practice grid is complete. Sorry, the practice grid is there. All the travel teams have their slots. We are still adding in our in-town teams, the intramural teams from NYS, and then also NGS have their teams to add to this, their city in-town city teams as well. So things might change before you step out on the field next week. So I would recommend before you leave the house for your first practice next week, just double check the practice grid so you know, hey, I'm on this field at this time and I'm either sharing with someone or I'm not. Because it's hard if you arrive and then all of a sudden there's another team on the other half of the field you weren't expecting. You will play over Columbus Day weekend. It is in the schedule. It's one of the weekends that Bays are okay with you rescheduling. They're pretty fine with and expect families A to be away and B also tournaments to be sort of the priority that weekend. So the one we kind of push people towards is the Natick Fall Classic is an additional event if you want to put your team into it or combine and have players from a couple of teams. There's no kind of restrictions on who you put in your roster in terms of like the guest players with the divisions. But if you have a 5th grade team and you've only got 7 of your players who are up for it and you want to grab some more players from another team, you can do that. I can provide rosters. But really with the Bay schedule and your game schedule, the aim here is, pending any rainouts, is you play the schedule as it is posted. Reschedules are really difficult, especially in the fall, because we don't have daylight as long as we do in the spring, and the lit field situation around Newton continues to be a challenge. Albemarle is a great sort of example, lost some fields there. So, really push your schedule out to your families, put it on TeamSnap, ask for availability in advance and try and track it so you've got players who can play the games and play them as scheduled. And if you need guest players to top up your roster, that's really the first step before you think about, hey, you know what, I might need to reschedule this game. And if you do need to reschedule games, there is information on the website about how to do it, but ideally you play the schedule you have been given, and if rainouts occur, we'll talk about that as they happen. The spring was brutal. We had so many rainouts, but I'm hoping that this fall is going to be a beautiful sunny Saturday every week. So just on sort of what we provide for communication, TeamSnap, everyone has been loaded into TeamSnap. If you are the head coach or the only listed coach for your team, you would have received an invite to be the admin of your team. All the players are preloaded in there. You as the coach and the admin can add players, add family members. So you have complete access to do all the admin capabilities on the app. It's a great tool to use for availability, if nothing else, just to keep an eye on who you've got. You need to load your practices in manually. Bays, I believe, do have an option to download your game schedule, and then you can upload it to the TeamSnap. There is no sync, but there is an option to upload stuff, so you don't have to manually put them all in. But it's a great tool. It's free. It's free. We pay for it for the club, so everyone gets access to it. So I'm hoping everyone has been on that already. And with that, one thing we mentioned earlier is before the season, if possible, hold a team meeting. And you could do that like we're doing it now on Zoom, or you can have it before your first practice. But the key here would be before your first event, so you can kind of set the expectations for the season, and thinking about sideline behavior, but also the expectations on uniform and arrival times to games and practices and other bits and pieces. It's a really impactful tool to do before the season. If you wait and things happen that you don't like, it's very difficult to go back and fix them. But setting the expectation at the beginning of the season is kind of huge. This is a template. It's been around for a while, but I will share this after the meeting with everyone, and it's also on the website soon. The website needs updating. And then the last kind of couple of things here is the other resources that we provide to you as coaches. The website has been updated, so it's hopefully a lot more user friendly, especially on the mobile, on cell phones. On there will be eventually a lot of resources, practice plans, links to sort of game day support documents, team sheets and preseason meetings and things like that. So please get familiar with the website, and there is a coach drop down menu that will have lots of different bits and pieces. You'll see Zach and I a lot. You'll see Zach and me. You'll see us at the fields a lot on Saturdays. We're there to support. We're not there checking up on anyone. We're there to A, support, B, make sure that everything's kind of working the right way and spectators are behaving themselves and everyone's kind of where they need to be. But you'll see Zach and I a lot at the game days. If you want us to come and be part of it and help, and you have questions, please do. And then Zach and I, this is our job, right? This is what we do. This is how we make a living. So never feel like you're bugging us or interrupting us. We're here to help. So any questions you have, however mundane or small or silly, or you want to talk about formations and how to play a 4-3-3 versus a 4-2-3-1, or you don't know what 7v7 looks like, then that's what we're kind of here for. The online resources are there and they are available. So there's lots of stuff you can absorb offline, online at your own leisure, but we're kind of your two go-to guys about anything soccer. You'll see Zach a lot on the field, and what he also does is a lot of team sessions with you. So he'll reach out during the season and say, hey, I'm going to come to your session. Anything you want to work on, anything I can help with. Do you want me to run the session? Do you want me to come observe and that sort of stuff? So you'll see a lot of him and hopefully a lot of me.
And even if you just need a drill, these guys always have good drills. I can't tell you how many times I've called Ed up and asked him for a drill for through balls or for defense or for various issues we've had with our teams.
Always happy to whip up a 75-minute schedule on a 30 minutes before your session, Dave. And then and then the last, this is the kind of, we're wrapping up here. So these are your contacts. We mentioned the age group coordinators a lot. These are the guys that kind of put in the legwork in creating the teams and crunching the numbers and putting all the data into our NYS supercomputer and spitting out the team. So these guys are your kind of resource for any sort of logistical things or jersey numbers or addresses to fields and stuff. And then some of the key contacts there, Zach and I obviously for on-field stuff and coaching related questions and technical related questions, but also Costas, who oversees the whole program, and Carl, who's your man for equipment, and then Cliff at the top if you want want to volunteer and be a board member, he's your man. And that kind of brings it. I'm looking at my time. Oh, Q&A. I've got a very reactive mouse wheel. That kind of brings us to Q&A. If you have anything now and you've been sitting on it, you want to ask us, please do. But otherwise, Cliff, Dave, Cost, anything else?
Thank you guys for doing this. It's a lot of fun. One of the biggest things that I try to teach new coaches, and only a few of you are new, but for the new folks out there, is spend a few minutes preparing before each practice. It really helps. Come up with a plan. Try to, if you have time to take coaching courses, take a few coaching courses. But if you can't do that, watch videos, but plan. Because the kids really value it. It makes a much more efficient practice. They see you're taking it seriously. Your team improves. So spend a few minutes planning. The other little nugget I throw out there is I have a magnet board. I think I may have sold Costas on this system, but I'm not 100% sure. He keeps his opinions very close to the vest on this. But
I'm a believer. I'm a believer in the magnet board.
we just have a magnet board that you can buy at Dick's or anywhere else, and I make little magnets with each player. And if you're subbing larger teams, it makes things much easier to figure out. Because if you've got a kid who doesn't show up, you move the magnet off to the side. If you've got to shift the kids at the earlier age groups, I used to take the whole defensive unit, move it all to the offense, the offensive unit, shift the magnets to the defense, and you've got your next half all worked out. So it just allows you to move on the fly much more efficiently. And if anybody has interest in seeing my magnet board, just email me.
Now, do you have photos of the kids, or you just put their initials on the
I just
magnet?
put their names on a little round magnet that I bought at like Staples. I put a little piece of wood that I glued to it. JT actually introduced me to this. I used his magnet board.
It's 1950s technology, Cliff. There's probably a million different apps out there that do the same thing,
I
but
know I've
it's
used
very
it.
it's very
I've done
effective.
it. You write initials, for each kid.
We have one of our assistant coaches has the app going because that's useful to actually time how long each kid's been playing. And if you're trying to sort of get parity or equity or whatever, you want to know how long each kid has been playing because you sometimes lose track. But the app isn't as good as the old magnet board if you're just trying to figure things out. It's much
Yeah,
more.
don't let the dog too close to the magnets, because it can be, a bummer to lose a kid.
All right.
But and I would add one other just small piece of advice that served me well after my first year of coaching, which is plan to be early. Just like plan to, if your practice starts at 6:30, like plan to be there at 6:15 at the latest. Because if you do that and you forget shin guards, you'll never be late. And if you get there 15 minutes early, you actually will be able to ease into it, and set it up, and it'll just go so much more smoothly. And tell your parents that the kid should plan to arrive early, plan to arrive to those games, 35 minutes early, plan to arrive to practice before practice starts. It's very disruptive when they run in. So that's a little piece that has served me well over time.
Thanks, Cliff. A couple of suggestions for apps. The one that seems to be getting mentions is Subtime, and there was a request for us to look at that from a club subscription standpoint. So we'll definitely at least take a look at that. I'll let the record show that Dave was the one who made the meeting longer than it needed to be.
That's not fair. That's not fair. We did not need Cliff to thank every human in the face of the planet.
That was maybe the most important part of the meeting. All right.
We'll deal with this later.
Well, with that, we'll take this offline. Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody, gals, guys, the whole gambit, any other, folks that want to declare themselves. Have a great season out there, and we'll see you on the field. Go Orange.